This heavy rain is sending tens of millions of gallons of sewage and storm water into the Connecticut River. Springfield Water and Sewer says combined sewer overflows, or CSOs, are necessary to prevent flooded streets and backed up basements during storms. Western Mass News reporter Patrick Fergus joins us live from our MGM studio tonight with the latest numbers regarding how much is going into the river and how the system is working in other areas along the river as well. Pat.
Yeah, Amanda, the Connecticut River obviously doesn't just receive overflow from Springfield, but also up the river cities as well, Chicopee and Holyoke. But we did see a ton of overflow today in Springfield. This was the scene today on the river where heavy rainfall once again led to millions of gallons of storm and sewage water overflowing into the river. At the Bondi's Island location around midday, a measured 4,350,000 gallons emptied into the Connecticut River. For comparison, that's enough to fill 6.5 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Now, Springfield Water and Sewer maintains that the CSO system is essential at keeping water out of populated areas, and the majority of CSO discharge when it rains is storm water and not strictly sewage. Communications manager Jamie Bartak says that the CSO discharge has already been reduced by about 50% since 1990, and many complaints about the system call for an overhaul. Bartak says that's not realistic, saying in part, quote, completely eliminating CSOs is extremely complicated and costly. Bartak adds the commission has no funding for CSO repairs and regularly advocates for state and federal dollars because individual projects can run into the tens of millions of dollars. Now, up the river, Holyoke has reduced annual discharge to 145 million gallons and is aiming to get under 100 million by 2029. While Springfield reported multiple overflows over the past 48 hours, Holyoke and Chicopee had not reported any discharge data to the state for that same period as of tonight. Mary Monahan, a public works specialist for Holyoke, points to recent weather patterns and climate change that can overwhelm the current CSO system, saying in part, quote, rainfall events like those of the past two days contain more energy and higher precipitation rates, resulting in CSO overflows like the one we are currently experiencing. Now, those three cities, Holyoke, Springfield, and Chicopee, are all a part of the Connecticut River Cleanup Committee, who are constantly advocating for more funding for new infrastructure to combat these overflows. Reporting live here in MGM Springfield, Patrick Fergus, Western Mass.